Judge McBain had a mental breakdown and was spotted walking around downtown Jackson, Michigan, butt naked. Did you hear anything about that?
Yes, I did. According to just people talking, you know how the streets talk, the word that I had received was that Judge McBain was walking around without clothes on and that he was high off of crack and that he had to ultimately be taken to the Anderson building on East Michigan and was then put on a medical leave and removed from the bench, I think for 14 weeks. And then the word that I had received is that I was actually the first case, or for sure the first capital case, after he had been placed back on the bench.
Wow. So you mean to tell me they let this crack-smoking judge oversee, who had a mental breakdown, walking around downtown Jackson, Michigan, butt naked, high off crack. They let him 14 days, put him on medical leave to clean himself off for 14 days and then come back and get on the bench and oversee cases. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I think it was 14-week medical leave.
14 weeks.
Yes,
14 weeks. Okay.
Yeah,
Still 14.
Yeah, that would be correct.
14 weeks isn't enough time. You know, he should have at least 30 weeks off, 32 weeks off. He should have had 6 months off to reflect on life and reflect on everything else, because I'm looking at, okay, he's going to take everything out on everybody who comes in front of him in court. That's just my opinion. He's human. He's not God. He's not, perfect. He's a gentleman who has flaws, and I'm quite sure that crack, we're going to say allegedly, high off crack, the alleged crack smoking judge, he had a bone to pick with anybody that came to his court. Now, from my understanding, McBain had a mental meltdown because allegedly he caught his wife in bed with a black man or messing around with a black man. Have you heard any of that?
Yes, I had heard that. The rumor was going all around the county jail while I was in the trial. So, people talk. So, it's the old saying, like when you were in the classroom and the teacher used to put you in a circle and, they whisper in your ear, and by the time it gets back to you, it's not what the teacher started off with. So we don't know if people added to it, switched it, chopped it up, and screwed it. That is what I heard. So I don't know if that's what actually happened, but I did notice that he did seem to give a lot of time to a lot of black males. It just people in general. I don't know what that man's issue was, but it didn't seem like he fulfilled his lawful duty to remain and be an impartial judge. I'll say that. Okay.
Now let me ask you this: what was his just every day sitting in court with him? What was it like? Mm-hmm. What was his mood swings like? What was he like?
To me, it felt like he had some type of personal vendetta, some type of personal problem with me because, you always want to be honest with the judge, and, it's no problem for me to let a judge know that, yes, I've had some run-ins with the law. I had been in trouble prior in Ohio. I had minor criminal history. I had one felony that was an incident with my neighbor across the street, which was a fist fight that they bumped up to a felony somehow. I had four misdemeanors on my record besides that, but this man was looking at me like, I was just the worst thing in the world. His eye contact with me, like his face would be bright red, like he was just, like he was irritated with me. His tone of voice was just like rough, hostile, like it was aggressive. And he was definitely for the prosecution. That was made known. Every time all of our motions that we had for the defense was denied, while all the prosecution's motions was granted. And then every time when we would try to object to reasonable objections, he would overrule them, and then he would let the prosecution go forth with things that should have been shot down. So it was just, he made it clear that he was for the prosecution. He was helping the prosecution. And that's not a judge's role. A judge's role is to be neutral. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watched the Michelle Blair case a little bit on TV, and this is a girl who put her children in the freezer for 2 years, and nobody knew where the kids were. But her judge was so soft-spoken to her, and she was, acting a little, I don't know what the word would be, a little aggressive herself in the courtroom. But still, the judge had patience with her. The judge talked to her soft-spoken, and that's a judge's role. And he was lacking in that. And for him to tell me he hopes I die in the prison, like, why do you feel like that? I don't know you.
I watched the videos. And the videos that I saw of him, he was very disrespectful to you. And you may have some people say, well, he's a judge, she's a criminal, and we shouldn't respect criminals. That's bull crap. This woman was not found guilty. She was being tried. So you are innocent until proven guilty. And from what I've already what I saw on the videos, this judge had painted you guilty the moment that you walked in his court and sat down. You were guilty.
Right.
The way he spoke to you, I've never seen a judge speak to anyone like that at all. Unless the person was just real rowdy with them and disrespectful, and you didn't have that demeanor about yourself. There, I saw you. You looked like you was a little agitated and upset because in your eye, your face, you could tell that you knew that your fate was already sealed with this man. Did you feel that?
Yes, that's exactly how I felt. I didn't feel like I had a chance, basically, because at the last minute, this judge went and released all my witnesses from the subpoenas and sent them home. I pretty much knew right then I was going to get convicted. First of all, I don't understand how I even was getting charged with a first-degree murder, because Michigan law says that first-degree means to premeditate. They don't have that, and they've even said that. So I basically felt like, I felt like they were against me in there, and that's not a good feeling. So maybe that's why, the media was portraying me the way they was, or they were looking at me how they were, like, she doesn't have remorse and this and that. But it's not an easy situation to be in that courtroom and to have people coming at you like that with all that hostility instead of giving you a fair chance, like how they're supposed to, and look at the evidence. Look at the evidence for what it is. That's why I said in the courtroom, convict me. If you got me on a murder one, convict me with the truth. Don't convict me off of lies. Because you tell me to come up here and raise my right hand and swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and then you sit up here and tell all these lies.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about some of the court, because he was put it on record, and that's a dangerous thing, that if it's not true. He said that you were smirking and you were laughing and you were rolling your eyes through the whole trial. Explain that to us. Was that true at all?
No, that wasn't true. I was sitting there, I feel like I was just trying to hold my composure, because you have a prosecution who they can sit at you and use this aggressive tone, and they can get all up in your personal space and point at you and call you a murderer and call you cold-blooded and call you a killer, and they can twist facts because they don't know you as a person. They don't know, here I am, I'm 30 years old, so you don't know the totality of me as a whole, but you have a couple documents sitting in front of you and you act like you know who I am for my whole entire life, and you twist it and try to make me look like this bad person who I'm not. But if you want to get all these character people and talk about his character, why didn't you get people to talk about my character, who I am as a person for my whole life? And then you lied about his character because you want to say he's not violent, he's not this, and he's not that, when in fact he is, but you hid the truth. So you're up in here and you're lying about me. So yeah, that's a little frustrating, because you're painting this portrait of me of somebody that I'm not. You get what I'm saying? I understand that you want a conviction, but even in law, the prosecution is to uphold the law. It's not about getting a conviction. Their duty is to uphold the law, and I've learned that since being here. So, it's just, I wasn't smirking. There's nothing funny about this situation. I'm not proud of this. It's nothing funny, to be a person to have killed somebody or to have taken a life. This is a very serious situation. There's nothing funny about that. But at sentencing, when he's telling them he's going to duct tape my mouth and this and that, yeah, I did laugh. Everybody else see me laugh in the courtroom because basically that was me just being fed up of all of their lies. That was me just being sarcastic, like, okay, if you say you're going to duct tape my mouth, I'm basically telling him I want to see you duct tape my mouth because in my mind I know you don't have the authority to do that.
Exactly. Now, there's no way in God's green earth that they could not have said this man was violent, not violent, that he was a great person. This man has an aggravated assault with a weapon. He has 2 criminal sexual conduct charges. He has actually 3. He has a criminal sexual conduct, penetration, penis to vagina, and that was on Heather Malone. Then here we go. The next day, he has another criminal sexual conduct, 2nd degree forcible contact. And then less than a month, a little bit over a month later, he has another sexual penetration, penis, vagina, criminal sexual conduct, 3rd degree. So within in 1 month, this man was out raping women, forcing himself on women. And you mean to tell me that this judge would not allow this in court?
Exactly. Right.
So,
and that's the whole thing. Like they knew that if the jury would see who he really was, that there was no way they could convict me. And that's why, okay, we got to hide this. So they wanted to make me look like the violent one. They wanted to make me look like the bad person because they wanted a conviction.
Exactly. Now you tell him, here we go. He raped Miss Heather Malone on February the 10th, 2005. After he raped her the next day, he went out and raped another woman. Forcible contact. Then less than a month later, a little bit over a month later, a month and 1 week later, he went out, sexually penetration, penis to vagina, criminal sexual conduct, 3rd degree on another woman.
Yeah, it was like he was a serial rapist. Yeah, that's what it boils down to. And they hid all that. They didn't want them to know. But when it comes down to it, the truth is the truth. So I was okay with them bringing in my criminal history. Basically, the ruling at first from the judge is that we're going to bring in her criminal history and we're going to bring in his too. But as the trial went along,
you have 1 minute remaining.
Didn't want that to happen because she knew what was going to happen if the jury seen that. So at the last minute, and this literally was like after the prosecution rested, she starts arguing, and she comes in with some bogus argument about, well, it came to me over the weekend. And this was after the prosecution had rested. She was like, I was thinking over the weekend, I did some research, and this testimony is irrelevant and inadmissible. And before I know it, he was like, well, the defense has a 10-minute recess. And he was like, okay, I'm releasing all the defense witnesses from the subpoena, send them home. And then he looked at me, and he looked at my lawyer, and he was like, do you have anybody you want to call for the defense? And when that happened, I was like, I'm hit. Like, I knew what it was.
Because you were set up. The fight was fixed.
Yeah.